This aircraft, which is a Spit Mark 8, and it's the only Mark 8 flying in Australia. For that matter, I think it's the only Spitfire flying in Australia. It's owned by the Temora Aviation Museum, and these markings are Bobby Gibbes, RGV. Bobby Gibbes was the wing commander of the East India Squadron, the Shark Squadron. I was the flight commander on that squadron, and I actually designed the Shark's Teeth one day in Darwin and decided to call it the East India Squadron. Bobby Gibbes, his markings is the highest scoring living Australian ace. He's got 12.5 victories. He flew Kittyhawks in the desert and was our wing commander in the Pacific area. This aircraft, the blower comes in at about 8,000 feet. It's an extremely good aircraft for that type of warfare where you're not going to be meeting, say, FW-190s at 30,000 feet. It's a very good gun platform. We've carried two 250-pound bombs for bombing bridges, etc., which we did in Borneo. And being a Spitfire, of course, it's probably the world's greatest designed aircraft with no vices. The problem with the Spitfire was to get it off the ground, get it back on the ground, because it's got a very narrow undercarriage. But once you got a Spitfire in the air, it was a magnificent aircraft to fly. It didn't do high-speed stalls, it didn't suddenly drop to just fall away. And I think that's why during the war there was very limited number of casualties caused by any aircraft problem. It would be the pilot's problem that caused the problem. I flew also the Spit 9, which is where the blower comes in at about 24,000 feet. But that was in Algeria when we were chasing the 190s. And of course we had to get up to about 35,000 feet for us to be on an equal basis with them. It's unfortunate that at the end of the war we just bulldozed the Spitfires into pits, and now today they're worth, any Spitfire of this flying ability is worth over $1 million. There is something like 50 of these flying in England, and they've all been planes that they're digging out of swamps and so on, because there's only a limited, anything made from them now has to be handmade. The Merlin motor, luckily at the end of the war, some were put into tanks, so they're buying these old tanks and they're reconverting them back for aircraft. I suppose the great thing I think about it is that the Temora Aviation Museum, which was started by David Lowy, is preserving these type of aircraft for generations to come, and they will know what we went through during that period of time from 1940, 1946, and of course for me, I'm now 86, so I've seen the change in the lifestyles, but I never will alter the fact that these aircraft and the men that flew them and the men that flew the bombers, that's why we have freedom today. Plus the ground troops, of course. But this is purely a fighter aircraft. I know we used it as a gun platform for strafing in the desert and for bombing. It is purely a fighter aircraft. That's its main role, for escorting. But at the same time, it was versatile enough to accept any other role if you're prepared to do it.